particle attributes. That is what this is about. Yes, click on the link I sent you so that you have it in front of you. What you have here is a list of particle attributes by category. Particles do 4 things, basically. They operate, they collide, they orient themselves, and they create destiny for themselves. That's what they do. And obviously a lot of the destiny that they create is not, shall we say, well thought out. And they get themselves into all kinds of fixes and problems. So something you might want to ask yourself is, let's say that you're testing about like an incident that happened when you were on the 0 dimension. And the area of the 0 dimension that you're testing about is the equivalent of the 116th dimension. And let's say that you, at that level of the 0 dimension, you were in a star collapse, and you know the star compressed, and you became trapped for eternity in this collapsed star, where all the protons are existing at Planck's distance from each other, which is, I think, 10 to the negative 32nd power or something. So they're like very, very highly compressed at a very small distance. And you're testing that this is affecting you. And the question is, if you're in this star collapse, you know, how in the world did you ever get to be where you are walking around on Earth in this body?
That sounds like me.
Does anybody have any ideas about that?
Hey.
See, we're testing things that are extremely illogical, aren't they? Right? Barb?
Yes. Yes.
Barb, what do you say?
It's illogical to be in a star collapse, you mean, or to come back?
It's illogical to have been in a star collapse where you could never get out. Like, these particles never get free of this. The gravity is just, you know, or the whatever it is that's holding them together, because gravity breaks down on the quantum mechanical level. So there's actually no such thing as gravity. What, Barb? I mean, what, Franny?
Who says you're not in star collapse anymore?
Well, if this is a star collapse, I'm okay with it. It's nice to be here.
Titanic too.
You know, that's right. I was on the Titanic too. How did I get here? So see that's the question, isn't it? Like, are we really completely beyond matter?
No.
What? You say no?
I don't think so. Now, don't we come? No, and let's say we were all in the same star collapse and just, you know, blew into a bunch of particles again. Wouldn't we reconvene, or, you know, like we did now, like get our bodies back if that was our destiny?
Maybe.
Well, our bodies aren't beyond matter, but we seem to be beyond matter. Like whatever we are inside there.
Well, light, I mean, we're the least dense particles of light, except in mass.
Just without energy, because matter is energy.
But if you totally explode into particles, and you have like the tropism and all those destiny things, then you can still get back on your, you know, track and conceivably find.
Well, I'll tell you what. Okay.
What if being compressed as a star thing is what we are beyond our bodies, and we can still have our bodies at the same time. It's like being in a condition, but still operating on some other level.
Okay, now let's move on, because what we're actually discovering is that the things that we test, like, for example, our other selves, which we might someday have another topic meeting on that, are the other versions of us. And so all these things are, they're not logical. And you could talk about this all day, and nobody on this call is ever going to understand this.
Okay.
It's just not going to happen. You know, it's the same exact thing as trying to understand God.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know if you remember when we were doing that little cure meeting on camera with the chiropractor, our friend who was our student.
Seth?
Barb?
Seth Friedman?
Seth Friedman said about this, he said, if that's the case, like if what you're doing is what you're doing is what you say you're doing, there's a phrase in the Bible about it. It says, it passeth understanding. And he nailed it. I mean, that's the bottom line statement on it. So why don't we look, for example, at how to use this list and see what most people do with this list, okay? And I know everybody on this call does this. Not new people. They don't know what to do with it, but we know what we do with it. You guys will say, oh, gosh, I should adjust, like you start looking at the particle thing and you say, I should adjust my particle indexes. Right? And you adjust them, yeah?
Right.
We should do that right now. I'm adjusting my particle indexes so that they're all at optimal levels and balanced with each other. And let me know when you've completed doing that.
Yes, done.
Barb, you got it?
Yep.
Franny? No. I'm adjusting my particle attributes. I'm adjusting my particle attributes so that they're all at optimal levels.
Optimal levels and balance.
And balance, see, they can be indexed too. Like you can get numbers for these, and then you can compare them. That's something one of the lessons tells you to do, and that's why there are these brackets next to them, so you can print this thing out and fill in numbers if you want. Now, I think that when we adjust our particle indexes, like, does anybody feel any different?
Yes.
How do you feel, Greg?
Very connected without any stress or irritability. Just pleasantly, everything is here. And I'm here, and everything is accessible.
What about you, Barb? What's your difference, if any?
I feel more like aligned, like, oh, everything's firing in the right direction, and on my mission, I guess you'd say, more like focused on moving forward. And feel more in the proper formation with my team, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Less common force.
Okay. Ross, what about you?
I feel more present in the moment,
Okay.
here and now.
Here and now. The here and now. That's good.
I
Um,
feel relaxed. Um,
Did you change when you did it? Did you do it? Did you test that you did it?
yes, I did.
Okay.
I just tend to relax inside. I don't know what, you know.
Okay, good. Now, I think that a lot of people just leave it there, and that is not what this list is for. Okay? The reason that we have this whole technology, see, there's other uses for this list than what we just did, this adjustment. Okay? So, for example, like, what we just did is sort of like you get a smartphone and you use it to make phone calls. Okay? That's what we just did is like. It's like using your smartphone to make a phone call. It's a good thing to do, you know, it's a good use of that phone. And there are other uses that can actually take you a lot farther than making phone calls. And that's why I got a smartphone, because I already had a cell phone. I didn't need to make phone calls on my smartphone. So, another thing, see, one of the things I just did on my smartphone is I downloaded an audiobook, and I'm like halfway through a 9-hour audiobook in 2 weeks. Just because, you know, I have 20 minutes here and there and I turn it on. I'm taking a walk after dinner and I turn it on. I'm walking along, the thing plays, and I listen to it. When I'm not doing anything, I got my phone with me, I tried calling somebody, they weren't there, I turn on the audiobook. Well, in the same way, with this list, you can use this list to understand yourself. For example, you can take one index, like let's take, do you ever know, anybody ever notice that Barb has trouble with her apparency index? With her apparency attribute? Like it scares the daylights out of her?
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, Barb, what happens when you get scared like that?
I trace it back to some childhood things, but like if I put a particular kind of picture about myself or say something kind of bold or whatever, and it feels really good, then the next day I go, oh my God, you know, I take it down or change it, or I don't want to represent myself that way, or I don't think it's me or something like that. Is that what you mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know what? Jesus Christ was the avatar who transformed humanity. You know, and it's lasted until now. And his apparency index I once tested at the time was around 3 million.
Wow.
What's that?
What? Greg?
Hi.
As opposed to what? I mean, what's the scale?
Oh, well,
Where 3 million is...
don't worry about it. It's not a scale. It's actually an index.
Yeah, so I just thought, just to give me some perspective.
Well, one thing that happened is he got crucified, probably because he maintained some other index at a lower level, but also what he said about it was when, like, Judas betrayed him and so on, he said to Judas, don't worry, it was supposed to happen, this is what I'm doing for my work, and I needed you to do this.
Yeah, right.
So, you know, it's the avatar, you know, it's not something that, you can't do everything by particle indexes, but you can learn a lot about yourself from it. Like Barb, I think you would agree that your apparency needs to be very high.
It does. So you really need to do it.
Now, for example, what we talk about a lot is sorting people out. You know, like last night we had a woman here, Jasmine.
Yeah.
Remember what Jasmine said? She said that she's trying to be a Christian, and you know she doesn't want to get involved with something that's really too new age. She's like picking and choosing what she gets involved with. Remember what I said to her?
You said this was beyond New Age, and you said...
I said it's the last thing in the world she'd want to get involved with if she wants to be a good Christian, because this is like, forget about it.
Oh yeah, and this is like how she can access Jesus Christ directly. Yeah. I
and so
remember that.
forth and so on. You think we'll ever
Yeah.
see? You think we'll ever see her again?
Maybe she said hello to me this morning on Skype, and she's working on some things. So
Well, good.
I think we did.
So the point is that you sort people out. You also sort people in.
Yes.
But if you don't sort them at all, then you don't, like, you end up with the wrong people. Now your apparency is one of your main sorting tools. Like Jesus walked around being very apparent, and people looked at him, and some people said, "Oh, I don't want that," and they crossed the street to the other side. I don't want to get involved with him. Then other people came running over to him, and they threw themselves at his feet because he had a high apparency index. Now, what do you think happens when you stand on the median of a highway, a busy highway in Santa Fe, handing out bumper stickers?
Yeah. Everybody sees me.
So your apparency goes way up, and now somebody comes over to you with this look of pity on their face, and they say, "Barb, I'm so sorry that you have to do that." Now you've sorted that person out, right? There's somebody you don't want to have anything to do with.
Oh, that's what it's got to be. Yeah, I haven't always, but now I do.
Yeah, there's somebody you want out of your life. You just say, "Oh, thanks for the pity. Would you excuse me?"
Yeah,
And then somebody else comes over to you and says, "Oh, I saw you over there. You're that thing. What is that?"
Yeah.
And now you got somebody who you can sit down with and show how to cure something.
Right.
That's what an apparency index is all about. So you want to be asking yourself all the time, like, how was my apparency yesterday? How was my apparency in that? This isn't about, like, adjusting it. This is about watching yourself, like, how were you? How was my apparency? Now, another thing, that's in the orientation level, because your apparency enables you to orient who you want in and who you want out. It's your sorting tool. Get it?
Yes.
It's one of your sorting tools. Now, what about, here's another one. This is also under orientation, mutability. You know what that is?
Ability to change or...
So you're talking to somebody. Yesterday you were talking to somebody, and like you walk away and you ask yourself, "Gee, how was my mutability?" And you get not good. You're testing. It wasn't that great. And you go, "Well, why? I thought I was all right." And you realize there was a point where you needed to change right there with that person, like a chameleon, and you didn't.
Right. Right.
And you go, "Oh boy, wait a minute! I needed to change my my tack with her." Okay, now under collision, there's an index called event horizon. Let me ask Greg, what does that mean?
How clearly you can perceive your border and what is the next person, who you are, who they are, and what's coming at you.
Actually, no.
No? All right.
What it means is when you're talking to your cousin, right? Let's say you're talking. Yesterday you talked to your cousin, and now you're thinking, how was my event horizon? And you get, let me index it. Oh, gee, it was like 20. That doesn't seem good. Is that low? And you go, oh, that was very low. And then you go, and you think, I really wasn't aware of any global impact in that conversation that I was having. Because that's what your event horizon is. A high event horizon means when you're in a collision, that whatever you emit in that collision, like the energy, that's what happens when you're in a collision, you emit energy. And whatever you emitted it wasn't getting very far. And the idea is that you want everything you do to have this enormous event horizon. Like this meeting right now, for example. I'm filming this, it's going on YouTube. Does that increase the event horizon? Yes, it does. Can you send this movie to your cousin and you can say, hey, we talked about you? And your cousin goes, really? And you go, yeah, but watch this movie. And he watches it and he says, I didn't understand a word anybody said. I have no idea what you guys were talking about. And you say, well, you need to know what we were talking about. Because I need you to be, like, I need you to have a bigger impact on the planet than you're having. And it could start with you understanding a little of what we were talking about. You know, because you're a good person and you could make a much bigger difference in this world than you make.
Yes.
So that's what event horizon is, see? Now, the question is, how big, just naturally, is your event horizon? Like Barb, for example, go back to you. Like, let's say that you show somebody how to do this, like or you bump into Arlene Markinson, you know, and you're talking with her. You walk away and you go, gee, you know, I didn't really that really isn't going to affect too many people.
Right.
You know? And there's Arlene as somebody who probably could affect a bunch of people.
I know. I just saw Marty the other day. I thought that's exactly what I thought when I walked away. Like.
Or Marty, yeah, is another one who could affect a bunch of. He's her husband, who could affect a bunch of people, or her ex-husband, or her husband. I can't remember.
They're together. They're together. In this different wings of their huge house, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So here's one. Here's one under operation. Okay, and it's compatibility. Now, Ross, when you were, you know, we're going to meet with Gulu tomorrow. When you were talking with Gulu, how compatible did Gulu seem to you, with you, and how compatible did you seem with him?
He seemed very compatible with me. This is my impression.
I have a feeling that you have a very high compatibility index.
Okay, I said that. Do I have a very high compatibility index? I guess yes.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and so that's good. You know, one of the things, I just want to say that one of the things that I worry a little bit about is that when I talk about sorting people, maybe you're all thinking I'm telling you to be witches, that I'm telling you to be in negative beingness, because witches have very high selectiveness and they have very high selectivity and specialness indexes, and I keep telling you that you're exceptional, you're special, you're different than most people. And it's like I'm telling you, you're a witch. You know? But no, actually, because I also want you to have high compatibility and high apparency. And witches often keep their apparency very low. Like, they don't want people to see that they're in negative beingness, you know, so they're just hiding tons of stuff about themselves. Like, you were talking about Jen, yesterday I think it was, Barb, and you were talking about how she's having this wonderful time, you know, going around visiting people and having so much fun. And do you actually believe that?
She's having more fun than she was in Austria, I guess. But
I'm afraid that your compatibility index is too high.
Yeah, I realize that.
And I think one thing that I'm telling you is you need it to be high, but to do this, what we're doing, you can't be as compatible as you often are. Like you have got to say, you got to be incompatible. Like this, like last night when Jasmine said what she said about Christianity, I could very easily have said, oh, we're into Jesus and we love Christianity and we think it's wonderful, and you know, I could have just made myself as compatible as I could possibly be. But what did I say? I said, this is the last thing in the world you want to get involved with.
Yeah.
You know, this is like beyond New Age. I mean, we're curing shit. They don't, New Age people don't cure stuff. They're like they, you know, visualize curing things, but it doesn't happen usually. You know, what happens is they, you know, they get worse and then they go to the doctor. That's what they do. That's the New Age approach, you know. You visualize curing things, and in fact, the doctors have adopted it now. They're what's the word? Prescribing visualization therapy, and it's going on people's insurance. Their insurance is paying for their New Age visualization therapy. They have their insurance policies that pay for that stuff.
Right.
For them to go to yoga classes. They have yoga classes at the Mayo Clinic. And then the cancer overruns their defenses and they die of it. They don't cure it. So we've got to be, you know, we got to be at the right level of compatibility. That's what this is about. You see, because the fact is that Jen lives in a dream world. She's living in a fantasy. She's trying to live in she just goes off and creates a virtual reality to live in. She will not face her life or her situation. And that's why she flaked on her immersion weekend, and you paid her to flake on it. You rewarded her for flaking. Because you're compatible, and a bunch of your other indexes were probably also pretty, like, test this question. See where it says energy discharge here under operation, burn rate? When you paid her that money, did your burn rate drop?
Yeah.
Because you discharged into her.
I get it. Yeah, I can feel it. That's true. I totally lost my power.
And what's happened, that's what's happening in a lot of these, like you had this collision where you were out handing out bumper stickers, remember, and you ran into Chrissy? And you discharged everything into her. You said it took you 2 years to recover from it. Remember that?
Yeah.
You're creaming yourself. Adjusting your particle indexes will not help you. You got to change. You got to use this list of particle indexes to understand what you're doing. You need to understand what these things mean, like strength transfer, for example. You know, is under operation. You were, like, that's where you were low when you were working with Jen. You were low in transferring strength to her. You needed a much higher strength transfer index to help her. And that means you have to watch that and continuously maintain it. Because when you look at Max, Max is a wonderful person. He's very weak. Part of the reason he's weak is because he has a disease, a viral-based lethal disease. And that disease makes him weak. It's weakening him. And if he's taking medication for it, the medication will weaken him also. And so you're going to need to transfer strength into him. And part of that, doing that, by the way, is making demands on people, demanding things of them. You know? So that's one way you transfer strength to people. I'm just touching on little parts of these things, you know.
Very timely. Good.
Well, when you talk about it, well, I guess there are definitions, but when you talk about it, it becomes much clearer than just reading this list.
Yeah, it's kind of mysterious.
Well, there are, yes, there are definitely definitions. For sure, you know.
There are definitions?
I think there's a page.
There's a list of definitions. However, I caution you that you have to look at these things, you have to test yourself, you have to ask a lot of questions about each one of these. And by the way, I just revised this. So here it says orientation. How do you pick actions, people, and directions? It didn't used to say that. Okay, now if we go to the destiny area, okay, one of the indexes is attentiveness. Greg, have you ever noticed that your attentiveness isn't what it should be?
What?
Thank you, Greg. I love you. You're amazing. You really are. Brilliant, brilliant person. Or how about for Ross? How about God awareness, which is called tropism? Would you say that you're perhaps high in this? Like tropism means that you turn towards the light, like a plant. Plants turn towards the light. That's called tropism. That's the name of the phenomenon. Do you understand what I'm saying, Ross?
Yes.
Okay. Would you say that you have a high level of tropism?
Are you talking to me?
I am.
Let me test. Do I have a high level of tropism? I guess yes.
Yeah, you tend to turn towards the light. So I used that to help you quit smoking. I noticed that that index was high, and I realized that if you saw that you would be turning towards the light, you would probably quit smoking, and you did.
Yes.
You know, because that's your overriding your overriding destiny is to go towards the light.
Wow, great.
And probably all of our Cure team members are always going to have to be people who go towards the light, because if you know that nobody could be on the Cure team with the kind of demands that are made of people on the Cure team if they wanted to go towards darkness.
Yeah.
So now under destiny, one of the attributes is vision, and we talked about vision in the previous the previous topic meeting, you know, and so you can see how these all work together. Like, Barb, what do you remember about vision?
In the sense of a particle nature attribute, what I remember is a vision as opposed to a dream is something you actually see.
Visionaries. What are the characteristics of visionary people?
Characteristics of visionary, they see, how things can be, and they see how to get there.
That's right. They see how it can be and how to get there. To have the right destiny, you need a very high level of vision. It means that all of us on the Cure team have to be visionaries. It's not good enough to have a visionary leader. We have to be, each of us has to be a visionary. We have to come up with how it can be done.
Right. I was remembering what we used to call originating our post. Like each of us has to figure out how to keep what our position is, and then how to keep it fresh and make it effective.
You know, I'm reading this book, and one of the things he says in the book is that the whole book could be about luck. Luck is everything. And one of the things that I have always considered an enormous stroke of luck is us getting into Santa Fe.
Oh my God, I was just thinking that yesterday. It's so true.
Santa Fe is an important place. And do you know how we got to Santa Fe, Barb? Do you know the story?
Yeah, I remember it. I was telling it to somebody the other day.
That's
My
right.
version.
There was a small group of people who were trying to get away from an earthquake in LA that Nostradamus was said to have predicted, and they were my staff, and I told them drive west. I mean east. Get in the car and just drive east. Get out of California. And they stopped at Santa Fe and were having dinner when somebody heard them, and they said, I have a place you can stay overnight. And he sent them up to his house, which was on the top of a mountain. And then Jamie Campbell, after they left, came into the restaurant, and she heard about these people, and she said, I have to meet these people. And she got in her car, and she drove up the mountain, and she started our courses in Santa Fe. That's how we got there. And then you loved it and went back there after you were in Florida. And I said, when you went back to Santa Fe, I said, that is the luckiest break that we've had, that Barb is in Santa Fe, because that is exactly where we need her to be. And you've been there ever since.
Yeah, literally in the heart of it now. It's funny that you mentioned that, because that's one of the things I thought of today. Like, how do I exit it? That's like, shouldn't I be somewhere else? With this, it just keeps testing to stay here. Testing to stay
Funny
here.
thing about that, it's interesting that all this time that you've been in Santa Fe, and you have, your vision, your attribute of vision, has simply not been high enough so that you could see how to cause Santa Fe to tip. And you've come up with things like, well, I should have a meeting and I should do classes. All wrong. It simply wasn't visionary. What just wasn't visionary enough. You couldn't see how to do it. And I would try to tell you things, because I'm a visionary, I try to tell you things, and you didn't want to do them. And then you would start thinking, I should get out of Santa Fe. I'd go somewhere else, for God's sake. Now, when you would think that, by the way, when you're thinking about getting out of Santa Fe, what category is that? Is that destiny? Test. Destiny. Is it operation? Do you get anything on operation?
It might be operation. By the way, I know that the best thing you ever told me, which I always know is the most powerful thing, and every time I've done it, in any form, made me stronger, is to go out on the street and just do things.
That's right.
Myself.
That's right. So, or get anybody you possibly can get to go with you would be also good.
Yeah.
Is it orientation? When you feel like you want to leave, I got to give up, I got to get out of here. Is that orientation?
Like there's something better. Yes. Where I should go.
In that, is your danger index too high?
I'm doing that, yes.
Yeah. Is your intelligence index and inquisitive index is too low?
Which one in the inquisitive? What was the other one?
The intelligence and inquisitiveness. Are those too low?
Yeah.
Because, see, when you go out in the street, one of the reasons, when you're out there, one of the things you're doing is you're gathering intelligence.
Right.
You're finding out things, and you're also inquisitive. Like you're looking around, like, where do I go? Who do I talk to? You're inquisitive, you see? And you're also methodical. Your methodicalness is too low.
Yeah.
And your recognition is too low. Because to sort people, you need a very high recognition and recognizability indexes. So that when your recognizability index is high, somebody looks at you and they say, oh my God, I know you from somewhere, from a past life.
Yeah.
That's been happening a lot. Yeah.
And that is your destiny index. When somebody says, I know you, I know you're a good person, what you've got I want, Yes, I will give you money. Yes, I will support what you're doing. That's because you have a high recognizability index. You know, you're always talking about finding the love of your life.
Not anymore.
When you, do you think maybe in finding the love of your life that you would have to have a very high recognizability index for that love of your life to find you?
Yes.
And also,
No.
if at the same, so, test this question. Have I ever rejected someone who could have been the love of my life?
Yes.
Okay, and when you did that rejection, what index, were there some indexes that were too high?
Selectivity, specialness. Those come to mind. Let me see. Maybe arrangeability.
How about energy state?
Energy state. I don't know that much about that one.
Was it too high when you did that rejection?
Too high? Yeah, that could be.
So you just learned something about the energy state index. Now you know a little more about it. That when it's too high, you tend to reject the love of your life.
Yeah, it's hard to bond, see?
Yeah, when your energy state is too high, it's too hard to bond. That's right.
Yeah.
And was my transmutability too low?
Yes.
So now you're understanding something about the love of your life and finding the love of your life. Like you've got a few things about it, a little handle on it. That's how you use this list. And then if you want to look up the definitions, look up the definitions.
Okay.
Does anybody else want to add anything to what we're doing here at this point?
Me, I have a question. How do we work the numbers? For example, there is a number that is the ideal number and the number that is the real number. Okay?
Well, for one thing, I don't know how easy it's ever going to be to do that. Because here, let's think about this, okay? Is my ideal number for any index different in any situation?
Okay.
Yeah, you got it? Did you get a yes on that?
Yes.
Okay, so actually, you're way better off just looking at yourself like, Barb, let's say, remember the other day you said there was a woman who you handed, I don't know, it was something like, you said, I wish I had gotten her number.
Oh yeah, that was a good 10,000 waves. That was a good example of, that was a good intelligence gathering plus appearancy.
Yes, and you would say, you go like, did you read the outline since I revised it?
Yes.
And you notice in there's this real exchange of information. Like, if you both have smartphones or cell phones, you just call each other, and you've got each other's numbers right there.
Yeah.
One of you calls the other, boom.
Yeah.
Hangs up, and then you've exchanged phone numbers.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, we were both naked underwater, but that's the way. Of course, I should have figured something out or followed her out and given her something when she left, because I could tell she really wanted to follow up. And, people say, oh, I'll remember curedrive.org, but I'm sure they don't.
No.
Or they go to cure.org is what they remember. They remember Cure, which is a totally different website. But yeah, I have to carry cards or do something more focused. Because she was like, perfect candidate for coaching and immersion and everything. She's like sort of asking for it. She kept saying,
quite frankly, what you should have done right there is she should have been writing you a check in the hot tub.
She's like totally, she had 2 hip replacements, also various surgeries. She had tons of money.
For $6,300 for a long-term 3 months worth of coaching. That's what should have happened. And,
she was
and that's
trying to-
what will happen when these indexes are in the right adjustment. See, Ross, this was a good question that you asked.
Can we do an example?
We're using Barb as an example right now.
But I want to be sure I understood right. First of all, you say you don't test just like that, generally speaking. You take something you want to achieve. Am I right?
Well, you take something, for example, that you didn't achieve yesterday.
Okay. Can we take something like to keep in units? Can we do that? What should my indexes be?
Well, you would have to say with the like later on today, what you should do is you should say, you should go down this list, and you don't have to get numbers. You could just say, with Gulu tomorrow when I meet with him, does this have to be high or low? Does this have to be high or low? And you just start adjusting them and feeling what it would be like to be just right with him.
Okay.
Put yourself into the place where you would be just right with him.
Mm. And to test the numbers, can we say on a scale from 0 to 100, for example, just to have an idea?
Well, no,
Not
see,
to guess.
when you index these things, I indexed them in a group once. I had everybody index them. And they, for example, I used to test people like Franny when I met her. Like her intelligence index was like, 47,000 or something. And I was thinking, gee, that's very high, Mine was high too. But then I was testing other people, and most people's was like around 100. And I said, gee, Franny, most people's were 100. And Franny's is, like Franny's sister Jill is like, hers is like 20.
Mm.
And Franny's is like in the 40,000s, and I was thinking, gee. But then I realized that Franny, the way she operates, like she really is, she's a spy. Like she spies on people all the time. She's continuously doing that. She spies on everybody. She's like the mega CIA, So, and her methodicalness, her methodicalness is astronomical, and so on. So that's anyway. That's how you would do it. Don't try to be too exact, Ross.
Okay. Okay, so for example, I could say to have Gulu, am I too low in, should I be higher in attentiveness?
Yeah.
Would that be a good question?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Okay.
And then you could just raise your attentiveness.
Okay, thank you.
And then you say to help Gulu, should I lower my tendency index?
Okay.
Yes. And so forth.
Okay.
Some of these things, I don't even remember what they mean, but does her latency have to be high for Gulu? Yeah. So latency would have to be high.
Okay.
And then you can do that and see if you can feel a quality of the change, and that would help you understand what the index is. And that's how I originally accessed these, because I started feeling these qualities, these attributes. And I realized that these are not actually qualities, they are particle attributes. They are they're your nature.
Yeah.
These are
After all, I don't even need to know exactly what one of them means.
No, you don't.
I just need to know if I have to raise or lower it.
Yeah, because they're your nature. That's right.
Yeah, okay.
These things are your nature.
Okay.
people are always talking about nature, you know, a person's nature. And these are your nature. And boy, they're like written in stone. It's very hard to change them, but we change them very easily. The thing is that they tend to snap back to where they were. So people who are in negative beingness tend to remain in negative beingness even if they try hard to come out of it. And what can you do about this? Oh, and by the way, here's something interesting, that, Barb, that it's possible that Jen might be a viable particle and just be very damaged. But when she goes into these virtual realities, she is in full negative beingness.
Yeah.
And Georg is in negative beingness. He's not a viable particle. So, just so you know, she married somebody who was in negative beingness. Think about
I
it.
think that's what she's facing now, that she did that a couple times, and what's that about?
Or not facing, as the case may be.
Yeah, exactly. I think what she's realizing is that, yeah, she's got these people who, yeah, we're not suitable, but she...
Well, she could always listen to this video and learn about herself.
Sure.
You aren't getting this tape now, but
Yeah, I got it. This one I got. Okay, anything else? Ross, do you feel more competent with it now? More relaxed with it?
Thank you.
That's the thing, is you want to be relaxed with these things and be able to use them. They're not supposed to be using you. You're supposed to be using them. So,
Absolutely.
you know, so... Well, here are the definitions. I wonder if there's a definition of latency. I'm just curious.
I think latency has something to do with how long you can wait for a result to happen, or when you...
Oh, that's right. It's your ability to build a potential action for a very
Yeah.
long time without taking the action.
Actually, I've been noticing that lately too, because I think like that's what how our team has worked together over the years. Like,
there is a definition there. So.
Yeah, you don't take the action, and you also don't lose the urge to take it. So the action is latent in you.
yeah, it's like pulling the bow back and holding onto the string.
That's right. It's like It's like pulling the bow back. So you know, like for example, Gulu needs you to be high in latency because you're going to let him do things, and you're going to have this urge to take certain actions with him, and you're going to hold that urge without releasing it or taking the actions, and just keep guiding him towards the place where it will be easy to take the action with him. And if that never comes, you've sorted him out and you can move on, but you'll still have the tendency to take the action, or the latency. The action will still be latency in you. I found a typo in the intelligence definition.
Oh no!
And it changes the meaning completely. No one would ever understand what this means. Of course, it's pretty easy to understand it. It says "Think James Bond," so that right there says it all. You know. Well, all right. Do you guys feel like we've done this? Do you feel complete, everybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, good.
I think James Bond.
Uh,
Helen Voss-Savant.
Franny, do you feel complete with this stuff?
Yes. Yeah. We can always go on.
Like when you I was thinking about like when Jennifer was enabling Georg and I was enabling Jennifer, that was some kind of a weakness.
Right. Okay. Now, Greg, you should connect with this guy. His name is Gulu.
I talked to him. I initiated him. I got him a test.
Okay, good. Well, just send him a okay, that's fine. I'm going to write back to him and say that.
I talked with
I'll tell him the call will be coming from you, Greg.
Me?
Yeah.
When? What's this?
Well, you don't have to do it. I'll do the call.
Oh, so I should tell them?
You don't have to tell him anything.
Okay. So
You don't have to do anything. Okay, well, in that case, guys, thank you all for a wonderful meeting.
And you.
So you want to, Fire? We want to talk about Tricia Diaz, because Bart had this
I think
bird.
we're going to discuss that tonight, I think. Or not.
Oh, you want to talk about tonight? Yeah, okay, good.
Also, I don't know, unless you want to do it.
Yeah, tonight.
All right. All right.
Okay, Bart.
One second
that is
before
Yeah, I'll go get that right now.
before we.
What's, I gotta call.
Okay.
I just want to check my outline. Oh, there is one more thing I want to talk about.
Okay.
And what it is leading above the death line. In this book, that's what he talks about. These great business leaders who created world-changing products. And we have something that's world-changing that we're trying to get people to do. And so did Bill Gates. And so did Steve Jobs. And they led above the death line, meaning that they did not put the company at great risk. Now, we, as our effort, test this question: have we been right on the death line for most of the time that we've been doing this? Like just on the edge of bankruptcy, the edge of destruction,
Yes.
the entire time.
Yes, I know.
Absolutely.
Greg,
Yes.
what'd you say, Greg?
I said, absolutely.
I tested no. I don't know.
Well, actually,
Fran figured it out.
no,
100%.
All right. Well,
no, and it's just that we keep changing for one thing, changing our perspective of, I mean, people have ideas about what the death line is.
well, this is money. It's about money. It's about funding. It's about like being able to survive. You know,
Well, okay, so if I had not gone into my bankroll and my family's bankroll, we would have been on the death line for the last, ever since I met you. I mean,
well, the
But
question.
Keely and Fran figured it out, though. They had like
The question is not if. It's not about if. Were we on the death line with you going into your bankroll?
Greg was.
yeah.
I would say yes, because if there was no you, then there's no us. Everything that we did depended on this one guy, and if anything ever happened to him, like suppose 10 years ago, you know, you'd had an accident. Suppose when you fell off the roof, you didn't land on remember when you fell off the roof?
Your feet.
Greg fell off the roof here.
I slid down the roof while
A Green Bay Packer died
And
that way.
he fell on a hibiscus bush, and it broke his fall.
Wow.
And he
now,
could have.
if we're videotaping it, you could have made a lot of money on it.
I wish I had. He was still talking to Dad on the phone. He said, Dad, I'll have to call you back.
I landed in
See,
Well, the way I see it is kind of the way Keely sees it. Well, sometimes you see it that way too, Bart, but for a different reason, I don't agree with the way you see it. But, you know, Keely always says, well, what do you think the money is for? You know, when you say, I'm taking it out to take care of my dad, and she says, well, that's what it's for.
okay, well, the point is that there are different ways of looking at it, and the way Franny tests it is that we're stable. Franny is very stable. So in her reality, we are not at the death line. And we may not be, because even if Greg was killed in that fall, it's possible that Franny would attract the money that's needed to continue on with this. She does that. Franny is a major attractor of money.
Now don't jinx it, please.
There isn't any such thing as jinxing it.
You were never
The-
on the death
This
line.
is, the truth is that there's no such thing as luck, okay? What there is these particle attributes that create a gravitational field. And that's what I've been trying to talk to Barb about in this meeting, that these attributes, Barb, they've created your gravitational field. And for you, like you look like somebody who's living on the death line. And you always have. You know, you have this place that your friend told you you've got to be out of this at the end of September, and you can use it till then, but then you got to go, and it's just like this whole thing, that you and you always seem to be fine. You always seem to be fine, and you go from one thing to another, and you live this charmed life. So, Franny might test that you're not at the death line. You create an illusion of being at the death line. This stuff is very, very complicated. It is not easy to understand what we're talking about.
I mean, as a person gets, well or clears trauma, their, indexes might change. I think part of that was trauma-based or,
Sure.
So I just, every day I wake up and it's like illusions are changing. I can see that I made some of that up or.
Okay, the real point of this is that what I've been trying to do with you is get you out there taking in money every day so that well, hell, I take in around 900 and I'm getting better at it, and if your vision index rises, so your destiny index rises, and you start to realize, well, yesterday I took in $72, and I only asked 9 people. I stopped at that point. Bart said stop, and I stopped. I don't have to keep going, but I'm gonna hit somebody in the next week or two who's gonna want to do an immersion weekend, and then that's going to be another $450, and you start to get a lot more confidence, and at some point the money is there, and you say, I think I'll buy a house, or something. I think I'll just get myself I think I'll just buy myself a house, then I'll own something, so I won't be paying rent to somebody, and it will be mine. I can do what I want with it. I know just the neighborhood I want to live in. And I'm going to make my transportation easy. I'm going to get myself a nice bike that I can, go most places on that. I'm going to be in the middle of town. And so on. You'll just go, oh, I'm in love with this woman. I don't think I'll move in with her.
Right.
And she's happy to pay for everything for me. I'll do that, and then with the money I'll take it. I'm going to keep taking in my money every day. And I'll put it away, or I'll, buy things I need with it. I'll get myself a better phone, so on, or whatever. And you'll just go from one thing to the next, You can have all these things. Like, you can have somebody who will buy you a phone and give you a place to live and do all of that. She'll give you everything you need. And you can still go out and you make money and you take it in and you say, well, I'll just put it in the bank then. It's my ministry, my church, like the Catholic Church, has a basement full of rubies and emeralds and diamonds and stuff.
Yeah.
And you'll just say, I'll get stronger and stronger and stronger, I'll just get, I'll collect rare books.
Right.
Whatever, I'll be the Pope. So, that's what I'm trying to do with you, and Greg, when you and I talk about this, it's like you're in the same reality. Like you go around and round and round in this same little eddy. Like it's like this eddy in the river, about your money and your, if I hadn't opened my... And the thing is, it absolutely could have...
Don't go around. I seriously, I don't. It's a perspective, and you were asking about something, and I said no, and then you... So I'm looking at different ways. I'm not really...
Okay, all right, good. Because, see, actually... The reality here is that I think that there are certain steps that we have to take to fulfill the definition in this book of not being at the death line.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, I did get bent out of shape last month.
And also, one thing about this is that when we all get better at asking for things, like, see, one of the things I believe about you, Barb, is that somehow if you say, okay, I am totally self-supporting in Santa Fe, and Bayard, I've got a place for you to stay, I have 3 cars, I just got another car donated to the church, okay, and it's an SUV in perfect running condition. That's what I'm using. I have a Jeep that you can use if you want to come out here. I'm not using it anymore, and I don't really see anything to do with these cars. I'm happy to have you here, and it's completely self-supporting. I will take care of everything for you. I think that our thing would change, and we would be self-supporting. I think we'll all go up concurrently. And that's one reason why I keep investing in you, because I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I think, and that's one reason I want to meet tonight, to talk about this. But this is your particle attributes create your gravitational field. And for some reason, to talk about Franny, your particle attributes are such, there may be tons of challenges in your life, but one thing is, you told me when I first met you, you've always had enough money. And I noticed myself the same thing, that I always had enough money. And there's just something...
That was prior to Greg's bank account.
That was prior to Greg's bank account. But I got a lot of things wrong with my particle attributes. There's a lot of things I need to adjust and change in my particle attributes. And then there are a lot of things that I need to keep the way they are. And whatever it is that has always governed me having enough money, I need to not change that while I'm changing the other things. So...
Well, one thing I used to tell myself is that I had faith that God would, with the Quakers' faith, God will provide, or not the Quakers, but the Amish. They always say, God will provide, and a lot of times it doesn't look like it, but He does.
But this is not luck. There is no such thing as luck. It's your gravitational field. It's the law of attraction. That's what the particle attributes are about. They are about how to control the law of attraction. And this is not just about money. It's about everything, your whole life, attracting the love of your life. Everything. Attracting, like having all 9 people you ask for money give you money, instead of only having 3 of them give you money, Barb. That's what it's about.
Yeah. I think I was like Fran, I was always naturally good at that, and then I scrambled my particle attributes for whatever reason, and then as I bring them back in, I get back good at that again.
That's true, Bart.
Well, it was...
here after all these years.
They affect each other. So here was something you were good at, and then there was this other particle attribute. Like, for example, my danger index tends to run way too high. Way too high. And I have the same thing I could say about Greg. And it's why Greg fell off the roof. His danger index was out there.
Yeah,
at that point, when he fell off that roof, he's up there, and the instructions say, do not stand on this stuff, because it makes the roof absolutely slick. And he just went right down. And he was talking to his father on the phone while he was doing. That's a very high danger attribute.
That's great.
That's a very. It's not. This is not luck. It was his danger attribute was like way too high, and so's mine. And it's why I stopped running my boat when I was in the Keys, because I realized I was going to really do some serious harm to myself at some point. You know, my danger index is just way out there, you know, and I need to lower it. I didn't know how to lower it back then. You know, all I knew to do was just avoid the thing, and that's what you did. There was some index, like we accessed, one was too low, you know, your energy, whatever it was. And I just went the wrong way. So everybody clear on this? As we feel, you know, the more we talk about this, the more we're going to get into.
I think it's great. This is really fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess the other thing I used to say was I was always going to have faith that my bills would be paid. That's all. It's like The Secret, but 1970.
Yeah, you know what I was noticing too, that I was wondering what indexes was. I was remembering how I used to be when I was on staff and I managed the money, and how I am when I manage my own money. Like when I was head of everybody's money or the organization's money, I was more brave, really. I mean, you could say it was reckless, but actually I was more like, oh, let's just get it. We need it. We'll manifest more, and we did. Actually, for a while, you know, basically we did until everybody left. But with me, I'm more contractive. Like I won't just trust.
Well, Barb, you're the only one who made the most. I mean, you made a lot of money as being a practitioner. I mean, you're the.
Yeah,
I don't even know if anybody else came near with you.
Yeah. I was gonna get that cheap.
You're a money magnet, Barb. You know, I just realized another one that's too high is my energy state is too high. It runs too high. And a high energy state and high danger index, that's where you fall off the mountain. When those two things are high relative to other things. And these things are not ratios, they're indexes. You have to understand that. These are not ratios. So they could be, I mean, one of these indexes can just be like as high as it, you know, at sky high. There's no limit. Ratios tend to limit each other. They pull each other. These things do not pull each other. But if you're too high in one, it's where you've taken the things that were working for you, Barb, and you've thrown them in the dirt. And I've watched you do it.
Like, how do you? That's something to totally let go of.
Uh-oh.
And you know, we needed to have meetings like this a long time ago, you know, where we actually really study this stuff and understand what the fuck is going on with ourselves. We really did.
Yeah.
Well, all right, this is a good increment of work for today.